Yo, what's good everybody? In today's video, we're going to cover 10 settings that will instantly make you a better Rocket League player. If you've never heard of the 1% rule for improvement, it pretty much means that you can make a bunch of small changes, and even if they improve you by 1%, in the end, all those small improvements will add up and you'll be greatly improved. So that's the goal for today. We're going to cover 10 steps that will make you a better player right away. So let's get it. We're going to start off with some common settings and then dive into some settings that you probably never even considered. The first things we're going to do is go into options and head over to camera. And I'm just going to go through some pro settings right at the top, and then we'll get into it and we'll talk about what my recommendations are afterwards. So we're going to pull up Squishy Muffins there, and we can see he's using 110 field of view, 270 distance, 100 height, -4, and 0.5. This is pretty close to what I'm using as well. And you'll see a common trend here, right? So I'm gonna go through some other really good players that have been popping off lately. Let's go through Justin's. Justin's is pretty much the same. The only difference here is the stiffness is 0.4. Let's see if do we have Astral in here? I don't believe we do. Let's check out Sipical MVP for North America. So he's using the exact same thing, just with -5 instead of -4. And let's pull up Turbo Palza. His are slightly different. He's not really of norm. And let's pull up one more player here. Let's go to Fairy Peak. So Fairy Peak. So you can see a lot of the pros are using the same settings, and there's a reason for this, right? So my recommendation for you guys, for the first thing to do that's going to make you a better player, is just follow the trend with the pros, right? All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is Deadzone. There's 3 different Deadzone shapes, which you can actually see here. The default is cross. There is circle and square. So you've probably heard some people talking about, do I use cross or do I use square? And I recommend you sticking with cross, okay? Square is a little bit faster, but you're going to be losing out on a lot of control for your shots that you would typically have. In terms of like the difference between square and cross, I saw a post somewhere as well. As long as your steering sensitivity is a little bit increased, then you can actually counteract that speed. So if you're using cross right now and your steering speed is set to 1.0 and 1.0, I highly recommend you increasing that to 1.3 at least. That's bare minimum. And that's going to put you up to the same kind of par as people who are using the square Deadzone. But a lot of pros right now that you're looking at that have that high mechanical skill, they're actually increasing this even more. So my recommendation is, if you've never used this and you're currently at like 1.0, then increase it to 1.3. And if you have been using it, then maybe consider increasing it to 1.5 or increasing it to 1.75. I wouldn't go over 1.75. It gets a little hairy after that. In terms of the controller Deadzone, most people have this set between 0.05 and 1.0, right? And so for me, this depends on the controller that you have. If you're using an Xbox controller, keep it at 0.10. If you're using a PS4 controller, bring it down to like 0.5. So it really is, it's dependent on your controller. Dodge Deadzone, I wouldn't change this from 0.5. It is subjective, like some people like it lower or higher, but most pros are using the default. So, all right, our next tip is, if you haven't already done this, we're going to rebind our air bind. This is going to allow you to just be able to use your air roll a lot faster than what you normally would. So I think most people, when they bind this, they're binding it to their left trigger button there. But I actually like to bind mine to the same button as brake. So the reason for that is I don't need to use my index finger and my middle finger. I can just use only my index finger, and when I'm off in the air, I can jump up and just keep my finger on the brake button and just hold it. And I'm going to start air rolling. It's very natural. It's a good natural feeling. Don't keep it on square. The reason being, you're not going to be able to boost and use square at the same time. It's just too hard. And you need to be able to boost and air roll at the same time, especially in higher ranks. So, all right, our next tip is to go into your video settings, and we are going to be running on the resolution of 1080. We're Okay, I can actually have a 2K monitor. I can go and bring that all the way up to 2K, but the game just does not feel as good. So every pro that I've been seeing is using 1080, even if they have 2K monitors. Definitely recommend using that. Make sure that you're in full screen here. You don't want to be using any of these other ones. You're going to be getting input delay if you are. And our goal is to have the minimum input delay when we're playing for the most performance. I'm not using any anti-aliasing, and render quality is high quality. Come over here. You want to be setting your FPS to 250 as well. The game's just going to run a lot smoother. You want to make sure you have all of these checked off except for transparent goalposts. This high quality shaders, that's kind of preference. But I see a lot of people, they have like bloom and they have all these other things on. Keep those off, man. Those are causing input delay. That's going to give you issues when you're playing. So definitely turn those off. I have everything set to performance and high performance over on the right here, just so I can have the most responsive game as possible. I want the most minimal input delay. My next tip is for people who are on PC to install Bacchus mod. And this is how I have this really nice looking slick car here. I highly recommend using Bacchus mod, but this goes in general for people who are using Bacchus mod or not using Bacchus mod. Is use decal where you can see the edges very clean. For example, I'm using Heatwave here, so I have very clean edges here. It allows me to be able to flick easier and just see where my contact is with the ball. And you want to be using black wheels. For whatever reason, you don't want your wheels to be flashy. If they are, you're not going to see the corner of where the corner is there, right? So you want to be able to make sure you have the corners there, so that when you're hitting the ball, you know you're getting the best contact, right? And so I'll just give you my Bacchus mod settings here. I'm using Octane painted black, Heatwave, stern wheels that are painted black as well, and the Gold Rush Alpha Reward. Definitely recommend using that. All right, our next tip is to increase your nameplate scale. If this is set to 100 by default, you can go in and change this up to 150. Okay? When you're playing in the game, this is going to allow you to see where people are a lot easier. You're also going to want to change the nameplate mode from the default to always visible. But as you're rotating around, you're going to maintain full vision on where they are. There are little red dots that you can barely see in the back when they're at the very back. They're going to be full nameplates and they're going to be scaled up so that you know if you're clearing to that direction, if there's someone there or there's someone not there. You need to have that kind of vision. All right, our next tip down is to turn off your controller vibration. Okay, I don't know if you guys picked that up when we were going through the other settings. This is purely a distraction. I don't know any pro that's actually using this. It's going to feel weird when you turn it off at first, but definitely turn this off. It's just another thing that your brain has to process that you don't want to have processing while you're playing the game. So definitely recommend turning that off. All right, our next tip, we're going to actually head out of the game and we're going to go into our NVIDIA control panel here. And this is kind of two tips, right? So the first tip that I have for you here is to make sure you go to your change resolution and make sure that your monitor is running on not 60 hertz. So by default, I think it might be at 60 hertz. Make sure it's running at the highest refresh rate possible. So for me, that's 165 hertz. If you're not already using 144 hertz monitor, I would definitely recommend going and getting one. Rocket plays much better on a higher refresh rate monitor. And for those that use high refresh rate monitors, like anything over 120, make sure you're not using your HDMI cord. Okay, HDMI cord is locked to 60 hertz. Even if you have it set to 165 here, you're not going to be getting it over 60. You need a display port. So go out and get yourself 144 hertz plus monitor, use a display port, and make sure it's set here for when you're playing Rocket League. This is going to hugely help you. The next step is to come into your Manage 3D settings. There's a lot of very, very, very interesting things here. You can feel free to copy as I scroll through, but there's some key things I'm going to go over here, right? So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And the first thing is the low latency mode. By default, this is set to off. Turn this to ultra. This thing makes your game so much more responsive. They just came out with this, I think, like last year. It's a really great technology, right? So if you have that, turn that on. And for your monitor technology, if you have G-Sync, definitely recommend turning that on as well. We're going to go down, make sure you have maximum performance on, highest refresh rate as possible, and scrolling down a little bit further. This is huge, okay? I've experimented before with the texture filtering quality. A lot of you guys are probably like, oh, I want high quality or quality because I have a performance card. I have a 2070 Super. You get input delay when you have it on these settings. Don't use them, man. It's not worth it. Set this to high performance. High performance is going to give you the best absolute performance in Rocket League. It's going to make the game a lot more responsive. Make sure you set that up. And make sure you're not using vertical sync. Set that to off. And finally, the virtual reality pre-rendered frames. Make sure that's set to 1. Don't have it set to 2 or 3 or 4. I'm going to give you guys a bonus tip here. And that is your input buffer here. All right, so your input buffer by default is legacy. I've been using that for a long time. I recently switched over to CSTS. The game feels more responsive. I don't know what it is. It feels more responsive, and I feel like I can read balls easier. I would play around with this. I would give this a shot. This is a bonus tip. I saw how I found out about it is I saw a pro using it, and so if they're using it, it's potentially maybe that's their competitive advantage, right? So give it a shot. Try changing it and see how the game feels for you on this. So that's everything. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. And if you did like it, give it a like. If you want to see something different, give it some comments. If this makes a huge difference, please let me know in the comments because I want to make sure that this is helping you guys out. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.